So news is that students will not shut down the institution. We're talking about Wits until there has been a mass meeting to decide on a course of action. This is the position of the incoming SRC leadership that held a press statement yesterday. The new SRC, constituting of 12 EFF members out of the total of 15, will officially take office from November. Joining us in studio now for more on this is Kaamil Alli. He is the Secretary General of the SRC. Kaamil, good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
It's an absolute pleasure. Right, let's just, I suppose, summarize what happened yesterday.
So what we're seeing at the institution at the moment is a reaction from students to the announcement that residence fees and accommodation fees are going to be increasing. The response to this from the incoming Wits SRC was that a decision needed to be made on the course of action moving forward. As the incoming SRC, they have established that a shutdown is not something that they have on the cards at this point in time. So last night we sat and resolved that as the outgoing SRC and the incoming SRC, together with the All Residents Council, will be sitting today in a meeting to try and resolve on a way forward on the whole matter.
Okay. How did it get to the point where you were already engaging on whether you should shut Wits down or not? How did it all sort of come about?
I mean, it's really a collective pressure. I think institutions around the country are shutting down, so there's automatically that pressure on the SRC at Wits and on students at Wits to take action. Unfortunately or fortunately, in the past, during Fees Must Fall protests, Wits got a lot of media attention, so that we were able to control the narrative of the movement. Something that's not happening this year is that a lot of institutions at CPUT, for example, are not getting the kind of media coverage that a UCT or a Wits would get. So that's where we're at the moment. I mean, it's really about using our position in society as an institution to try and control the narrative of Fees Must Fall, free education around those issues.
The scenes we saw unfolding, I mean, at most universities around the country, but particularly Wits, I mean, it really did get to a situation last year where we saw students blocking traffic, destroying property. I mean, we even saw students being beaten up by the police. It was horrific. It really was not something that we wanted to see unfolding with the students of South Africa. Members of the public also came to be a part of these negotiations. How are you going to avoid it this time? I mean, because we can see that already that pot is boiling, and especially after a so-called leaked report over the weekend that fees are not going to fall. How are you going to try and curb that?
It's difficult, to be very honest with you. However, the feel from the ground from students is that given the trauma of last year, there isn't a real sort of interest in a total shutdown, Students are asking us to engage in other forms of protest, in other tactics to use to try and pressure government, because ultimately students still believe in the call for free education. It's just that they're not willing to go through the same kind of trauma that they went through last year.
Yeah. This so-called leaked report, have you seen it?
We are busy interrogating it. It's quite a lot of information. Ultimately, I think it's expected, the kind of outcome that's from the commission. Initially, when the commission was established, we said to the government, you're asking the wrong question. We don't want to know whether or not a fee-free education is feasible. The ANC government resolved in Mangaung that actually free education is possible and we need to implement it. So looking into the feasibility was disingenuous of them. We wanted to know when the rollout of free education was going to happen.
Yeah. There are a lot of arguments for both sides of the story, whether or not there should be free education, tertiary education for some or not. We had an analyst on yesterday talking about it and saying that there are too many people or students that have become professional students in universities, and they're clogging up the system. And it's because of the clog up in the system of these students that other students that perhaps have the potential to come through the system fast, get into the workforce, create a difference, are not able to do so because people just stay there. And when they do get loans, they don't pay them off. So then you get NSFAS and all of these other institutions that are struggling. So, I mean, what are your views on those kind of views?
Well, we've maintained a stance as the Wits SRC, that in any restructuring of a system, essentially you need to start with those who need it the most. So for us, an implementation of free education would start with the poor in its initial stages, for those who need it the most, so those who qualify for NSFAS, that kind of thing, and gradually move towards greater accessibility to all students, students from the missing middle, for example. So yeah, that's the stance that we've always maintained.
All right. I'm going to take a very quick break. We'll just continue and wrap up the interview after this. So do stay tuned to Morning Live. But we'd also love to hear from you. I mean, I know so many people spoke about it yesterday. It's a conversation that's continuing. But if you'd like to add your voice to what you saw happening at Wits yesterday, or what you're seeing happening at UCT or any other tertiary institution with regard to fees must fall, do write to us at Morning Live SABC. We'll see you after this. Do stay tuned.